Looking at her upper body looks normal, her legs look jacked. So it just seems very mismatched. None of this makes any sense. Her design is very frustrating for me. I don't know who this character is for. My name is Mustafa. I am the solo developer of Suburb Path. In the past, I worked at Treyarch and Zwift. Right now, I have published Nexus Defenders, which is available right now on Steam, and I am currently developing a game that is unannounced, and I should be announcing it very soon. Today I'm going to talk about Concord, and while right now it's very popular for people to bash on this game and dance on its grave, I'm not here to make fun of people or celebrate the failure of a studio or of Sony, etc. I will say, with a disclaimer, I do know at least 3 people who worked on this game, but that's not the reason why I'm saying this. I just don't think that's right to have that type of attitude when it comes to so many people working on a single project. The reason why I want to talk about this game, though, is because it's really important to look at why such a large project has come to a failure, and we can learn from the failures of others. This video is for educational purposes for those who want to get into video game development, primarily for indie developers. As I mentioned before, I've worked at Treyarch, I've worked at Zwift, and I understand how it feels to be one of the cogs at the bottom while there are bigger cogs at the top that make the larger decisions. And when those larger decisions come to a failure, the cogs at the bottom end up feeling the ramifications. So I understand being in that position. The very first thing I want to get off the bat when talking about Concord and why it failed, above everything else, the game just looks very ugly. This is an update. As soon as I finished recording that entire video, I look online and Sony has announced that they are suspending Concord. Not sure what that means yet. Maybe they're going to relaunch the game later on as free to play, but again, I'm not dancing on their graves. I'm not celebrating a failure, but we are looking at this so that we can learn from the failure. I just ran through the trailer during the introduction of this video, and I picked out these 5 colors that I saw popping up frequently during the trailer. And to be honest, these are just not attractive colors, especially together. I haven't studied color theory, but from a layman's perspective, these are just very ugly colors. I've seen quite a few of my former colleagues, game developers who are in the AAA industry, mention how beautiful the game looks as they're playing the game. And while it might look technically impressive and very detailed and crisp, the colors themselves just aren't beautiful. I think a lot of the people who are saying the game looks beautiful are confusing technical graphics with artistic look. The game just looks very unappealing from how it looks, the world, and the characters. They all look very ugly. And I'm not saying this to make fun of the people who worked on the game, but I just don't believe that whoever came up with these character designs are skilled artists who understand how to make good looking characters, and also whoever came up with the color choice for the game, I don't understand why. The only explanation I can think of is that they wanted to come up with a unique look, which sometimes that is the reason why a game chooses a certain color palette. For example, Deus Ex Human Revolution. As you can see, it's very golden looking. And I recall listening to an interview with one of the game's directors mentioning that they intentionally chose a gold color palette because no other game looks like this. And they wanted the screenshots to look unique so that when someone sees a screenshot online, they can say, oh yeah, that's Deus Ex Human Revolution. But unique doesn't necessarily mean good. We've got that out of the way. Let's look at the characters real quick, and we're gonna go through a list of points that I want to go over, so you or the viewer who are trying to learn from mistakes can understand what mistakes to avoid so that you don't make an ugly looking game. It's important to have a good presentation with your game because the characters, especially for a game like this, are what bring in the people. You can have a great story, but no one cares about the story if the game doesn't look appealing. You can have great gameplay, and no one cares about the gameplay if the game doesn't look appealing. But if the game's characters don't draw in the customers, then no one wants to play the game. Again, I haven't studied color theory, so I'm not going to talk too much about the technicalities of color, but I will go over the fact that the color choice is very ugly. You look at this lineup and I don't see any good looking colors. Like, they all look very ugly. The color tone is very flat. So you can tell the color tone if you go black and white, and since you see a lot of gray, you see a few areas where it's light over here, it's light over there, that's a little bit light, her legs are a little bit light, but other than that, everything is very gray. That means the color tone is too similar. People who are colorblind or see color a little bit differently, it's going to be very difficult for them to see these characters. They don't stand out very well. They are visually flat. So when checking to see if your characters are interesting, there's multiple tests you can do to try to see if the characters are interesting. There's the squint test, there's the silhouette test, there's the zoom out test. You can zoom out, and as you can see, once I zoom out far enough, about half of them look the same. That's not a good thing when half of them look the same. You can also blur the image to that would simulate the squint test. Also, there's the mirror test, where you make sure that the character doesn't look lopsided once you flip the image horizontally. Another thing I want to point out is that none of these characters look like the main character, meaning none of them look interesting enough for a person to say, I want to play that character. In fact, a good number of these characters just look like NPCs. I'm just going to take a look at a couple of these characters real quick, because I'm not going to go by every single one. He looks like he'd be in the background of like a Star Wars movie. Like one of the guys that are in the background while everyone's getting into their X-Wing fighters. This is an NPC. There's nothing unique looking about him. There's nothing main character looking about him. He doesn't look cool. He's the definition of an NPC. And then this mushroom person basically looks like a random alien bad guy that you would shoot at in just about any first-person shooter that takes place in space. This character does not look like a named character. Looking at this character, she looks like two different characters. Her upper body and lower body do not match at all. It is a huge clash between the two. First of all, going back to the color thing, like she's just a very bland color. But the top, she has like this raggedy potato sack that she's wearing, and for some reason she's wearing a backwards cap with these goggles on her head. But then she has what I'm assuming are prosthetic legs. I don't think this is power armor, because if it was armor, she should be wearing it up here as well. Also, the fact that her feet have toes make me think that these are prosthetic legs. With that said, assuming that these are prosthetic legs, it seems kind of weird of how thick these legs are. Comparing to this other female over here, looking at those legs, those look like normal legs, and these look like big beefy legs. Looking at her upper body looks normal, her legs look jacked. So it just seems very mismatched. She does not match herself. I want to go over materials. Let's take a look at this guy real quick. Everyone's made the comparison of this guy being Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's move on from that. But what I want to talk about with this guy, what is this? The color makes it look like a life vest. But what type of material is this? Is this hard material? Is it soft material? It looks soft. It doesn't look bulletproof. I don't understand what this is. So the material itself looks very random. It doesn't make sense to me. Also, the spikes seem out of place. Usually, jagged edges, spikes, these type of shapes are more for aggressive or evil characters. From what I've seen, he seems to be a good guy. He seems to be friendly. So I'm not really too sure if it's supposed to be subverting stereotypes, but it just seems very random for him to have spikes. Overall, he looks pretty ugly. Last person we're going to look at for this specific point is who I'm going to call Rocket Girl over here. You look at her suit and you can't even tell what material is what. The visor looks opaque. It doesn't look like glass. It doesn't look like she can actually see through it. The rest of her suit looks very rubbery or plasticky. It doesn't look hard. It doesn't look metallic. It doesn't look like cloth either. It just looks like some kind of rubber suit or a plastic suit. It just looks very weird. So the materials are not very clearly defined when you look at these characters. Before I go into my next point, I want to talk about what bad AI art generation can do to a character. So this is AI generated, and while it's not a great character, I don't consider this to be like bad AI art. It doesn't do anything wild, anything confusing, any random clutter. These, on the other hand, are significantly worse. Now, I generated this on Midjourney. I just typed sci-fi warrior with complex power suit armor. Now, I know some of these have visors that are opaque, but that's not what I want to look at. What I want to look at is the randomness, just the random clutter. Getting a closer look on this specific one, it just has a bunch of random things. Like, what are all these holes? This thing, what is that? What do all these things do? I'm assuming that he'd hear through those, but like, what are all these things? Why is there a tube there? What are these lights for? What's that thing? It's just random. A bunch of these things are random. And this is using Niji6, and this is far worse. This guy's terrible. It's hideous. Don't know what these are, ears or eyes. Don't know if that's like some sort of like a scarf or something. Why are there openings on this armor segment? What are all these things? What is that? It's just a bunch of random hideous things. And that's what bad AI generation will do. It will make just random clutter. It will fill in space when it doesn't know what to do with it. And the reason why I showed you that AI art was just to demonstrate to you why I'm very annoyed with this character. This character just has so much random clutter. I'm not saying this character was designed by AI. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that whoever designed this character did just as bad of a job as AI did. Like, all these random tubes and pipes, whatever this thing is, all these random tubes, I don't know what that is back there. All of it's just random. It makes no sense. There's no rhyme or reason to all these weird things. Her helmet makes no sense. From a practicality standpoint, if you're wearing a box, you're really limiting what you can see, especially if she's trying to turn her head. None of this makes any sense. Her design is very frustrating for me, and I definitely think this is the worst design out of the whole crew. It just has so much randomness. It's hideous. None of it makes any sense. I'm assuming this is some sort of like a flame retardant suit because of the fact that this is a grenade launcher. But the shoulder pads, like the colors, I heard someone say that this color is basically like the default color of a 3D printer. This is just such an ugly design. The randomness does not help. For the next point, we're going to have an adult conversation, and that's stereotypes. So there are negative stereotypes and positive stereotypes. You can use stereotypes positively, and that's fine. But also there are negative stereotypes that reinforce a negative outlook towards those people. I myself, I am Arab. My family is from Iraq. I know I don't look like it. I don't sound like it. Even other Iraqis, they are confused when they find out my family is from Iraq. And I can tell you that throughout my entire life, I don't think there's been a single time I've seen an Arab character in which I'm like, yeah, that's a great character. In fact, most of the time, it's really bad. With that said, these characters have a lot of negative stereotypes. Like, why do these two black characters have to have like the sunglasses and they're probably into hip hop? I'm not sure. I haven't played the game. I don't know if they play hip hop music for these characters, but they look like they probably have some sort of a hip hop theme, especially with those sunglasses that these two are wearing. Also, from the clips I've seen, this character talks like Mike Tyson. I don't know why they gave her a lisp. I don't think they understand. People make fun of Mike Tyson's voice all the time, so I don't know why they'd make her sound like that. But we really gotta talk about this character right here. She's the biggest stereotype, not just in size, but figuratively, she's the biggest stereotype of them all. When it comes to black women in media, I've noticed basically two different types of stereotypes. And there is like the very masculine black woman, usually very fat, and that's what this is. This is from the game Monaco 2. This character right here, she's like a Scottish bruiser. First of all, I looked it up online, and like less than 1% of Scotland is black, but they decided to make this big woman, a very large woman, who is basically shaped like the heavy weapons guy from TF2. They made her bald, they gave her the nose ring, they gave her giant hands, and of course she's like as large as the Kool-Aid Man. And this is not okay to portray such a ridiculous negative stereotype. This is a tabletop game. Tomb Raider Shadows of Truth. This is not okay to just have a list of check marks that you want to go through and say, yep, got that. She's fat. She's black. She's got the pink hair strip. She's got the prosthetic legs. We're winning with this one. This is the definition of a token character. Going back to Lizzo over here, I genuinely thought this character was some sort of a parody or a joke when I saw so many people using this character on their YouTube thumbnails. It literally looks like Lizzo cosplaying as Doomslayer or Master Chief. I mean, first of all, like her armor looks ridiculous. It looks like rubber or like Michelin Man. It doesn't look hard. It looks very soft, just like the other materials. It doesn't look hard at all. It looks very rubbery. It looks like Michelin Man arms. You are feeding into negative stereotypes. I think a general rule of thumb to see if your character is okay is if you show it to your parents who are, you know, a generation older than you, if you're in your 20s or 30s and your parents are like 50s, 60s, 70s, and you show them this character and you say, what do you think? Tell me, is this a good character? And they start laughing at you. I don't think a single person thinks this is a good looking character. I don't know who this character is for. With that said, I know there are a lot of people online who are saying that this game failed because of forced diversity. I'm not going to agree with that statement, but at the same time, I will say there's a clear goal to have diversity, but there's an assumption that diversity means good characters. And I want to explain. We're still having an adult conversation here. Diversity is neither good nor bad. Diversity is a result. If we have a business and we conclude that the business has very diverse teams with different races and ethnicities, that is neither good nor bad. That is the outcome. The observation is that it's diverse. If the teams within the business are not diverse, in fact, they all came from the same family. They're all brothers. All of them are brothers from the same family. That is still neither good nor bad. That is the outcome. The outcome. That is an observation. Diversity is neither good nor bad. And we need to have this adult conversation. So when you want the outcome to be diverse, that's fine. It doesn't mean it's going to result to good characters. And all these characters are really ugly. None of them look like they are the main character. None of them look interesting. My final point, I want to mention that there's no consistency within the characters. And I can understand the approach of like having, you know, all these different characters representing different worlds. So they have different looks. Like I think League of Legends has that thing where they all come from different places, so all the characters are different. And I can understand that. But when you're trying to establish this new world, this new universe, the Concord universe, and you're spending so much money on this game, and you spend 8 years developing this game, and you're using ugly colors for the world and the characters, and then none of them look like they come from the same universe. They all look like NPCs from random places. That doesn't help. Let's take a look at some better examples real quick. So Mass Effect, I wouldn't say they are great character designs visually. I mean, they are great characters. That's a whole different topic on its own. But visually, I'd say it's not bad, but not great either. They're okay. Mass Effect does a really good job with a consistent look. They all have like the same types of armor. They have the same styles of clothes, and it really helps build the universe. And that's the positive of having a consistency. Like a very strong consistency helps build that universe. The negative part though is that when you start doing all those different tests, like you zoom out too far enough, or you blur the image, or you squint, or you do the silhouette test, they all start looking the same at a certain point. So that's the negative aspect of having such strong consistency. I know everyone wants to compare this to Overwatch, because it's obviously trying to do what Overwatch did. Hanzo, they did a pretty good job with him by basically making him dressed more traditionally, but with a few updated elements, like any element that's supposed to be metal, any hard armor like his legs, they made that more futuristic looking, but the rest of him looks more traditional. Now let's look at Reinhardt real quick. He's such a good design. I think this is his design from the second game though. But one thing I mentioned earlier, like when you have like spikes, that usually indicates someone who's more aggressive or evil. The shape matters. The kind of lines, whether it's curves or straight lines or spikes, whatever like that, that helps speak towards what kind of character they are. Like a rounder character is usually more friendly. One with straight edges, as you can see, there's lots of, like, you look at his knees, like all these are very straight, like all these straight lines usually indicate strength. As you can see, this looks like very thick, powerful armor, and it really helps emphasize that. Overall, Overwatch has a very good looking cast of characters, especially the originals that came out. They got really goofy later on, and then that was also coincidentally after they revealed that they were using an algorithm to tokenize their characters. And as I mentioned before, it's not okay to make token characters. When your goal is just to have a checklist and that's it, you're making a token character. Before they revealed that they were using that algorithm, the original cast I thought was actually very excellent. They all have very unique designs. They all look like they fit into the same world, mix of technology and soft clothings. Some of the characters aren't that original. Genji is basically like Cyborg Ninja. Bastion is basically Android 16. Torb basically looks like he got ripped out of World of Warcraft. But overall, I think the cast of characters is very appealing looking. You look at these characters, at least one of them will make you say, yeah, I want to play that character. Team Fortress 2, I mean, obviously it came out before Overwatch, and everyone called Overwatch a Team Fortress 2 clone or a knockoff. Team Fortress 2 is one of those games that passes the silhouette test. Every single character has a different height, different shape. I guess the two closest would be the spy and the sniper, but the spy is a little bit shorter, and the sniper, he's got the hat to help him look a little bit different. Team Fortress 2 does two other really good things. One being that exaggerated body parts really helps them stand out. For example, every single character has big hands, especially the heavy weapons guys. They all have exaggerated facial features. Other than that, all of them have really fun personalities. I think all their personalities are some sort of murderous psycho, but that's another discussion. We're talking about the visuals right now. And I'm going to wrap this up by talking about a couple of fighting games real quick. Tekken, I think, has a great cast of characters. I think Tekken 3 was peak design. And then at 4, they started going downhill once they decided that they wanted everybody to wear street clothes, especially hoodies. Everyone was wearing a hoodie in Tekken 4. And they kept going with that after Tekken 4. But Tekken 3, I know this is a picture of Tekken 2. I couldn't find a picture of the entire cast of Tekken 3. In Tekken 1, 2, and 3, they focused more on having them wear their martial arts uniforms. It made them all stand out. Like every one of these characters look interesting. The clothes is very functional and it fits the world. That helps them fight, helps them become mobile, and helps them be part of the tournament. They all have like a distinct hairstyle. Maybe Paul and Jack might look a little bit similar, but you see Jack and everyone's like, okay, that's Terminator over there. But overall, they all look very distinct. Their clothes help them look unique. This is the only group shot that's official artwork that I can find at Tekken 3. But you can get a good idea that these characters, they all stand out. They look unique. They have different hairstyles. This is back when, before every black character had dreadlocks. It was actually pretty unique for a character to have dreadlocks back then. I think they're all like really good looking designs and helps them stand out. And to finish off, we're going to look at Street Fighter. As I mentioned before, stereotypes are not all negative. Some of them can be used positively. I mean, I think Street Fighter is a great example. Punch Out, the Punch Out game, Super Punch Out, Mike Tyson's Punch Out, the Wii Punch Out. Those games use stereotypes, and it's more in a fun and playful way. Like a Russian who wrestles with bears. Yeah, that's a stereotype, but it's not a negative stereotype. No one's going to get their feelings hurt about a Russian who wrestles with bears. A Jamaican who likes to dance. I don't think that's going to hurt anybody's feelings. I think that's more of a fun stereotype. In fact, they decided to make yoga into a fighting style, and that's really goofy. All the points I've mentioned before apply to all these characters. They all pass the silhouette test, the squint test, the everything test. They all have a color that makes them stand out and unique from each other, and that's what matters, is that if you look at them and be like, okay, yellow and brown, I don't see another character that has those colors. Green and orange, I don't see another character like that. The one reason why they wanted to do that with Street Fighter is this game needed to attract people who are walking by the arcade machine. And they look by and they see these really cool characters yelling goofy things, then that's going to attract them towards the arcade machine and put in their quarters. And that goes back to Concord. Concord, I believe, failed because it looks ugly and the characters are uninteresting. For those of you who are wanting to get into video game development, it's important to have an understanding of what makes a character look attractive and what catches an eye. Tell me about a game that attracted you towards playing it because of its characters. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to make more YouTube videos, especially on game development and resources for indie developers. And if you haven't already, check out my other channel. I just post motivational stuff on there, mainly YouTube shorts, but check it out. Subscribe to both the channels, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.